What's up, guys? Welcome to today's video where I'm going to let you know right up front it is going to contain spoilers for the movie Twisters. Okay, so if you don't want the movie to be spoiled, turn it off. Okay, because I'm going to spoil it for you. Now, if you don't care, let's get into today's message. And as a real estate investor, why am I talking about the movie Twisters? Well, it's because I went and watched the movie this weekend. And as a real estate investor, we just caught a stray left hook out of nowhere. All right. Apparently, someone who decided to write this movie wanted to make the real estate investor the bad guy. They wanted to paint our profession in the light of we are greedy. We are capitalizing off of other people's pain and suffering. And in this case, the devastating damages caused by the tornadoes, the storms. So the plot is that one of the main characters, he has this technology that can save, people's lives with knowing more about tornadoes. And he's being funded by a businessman. Well, the businessman is a real estate investor. And so as they start working together and they're trying to put out this technology to track down these devastating tornadoes, it becomes to light that as these devastating tornadoes come through and they, ravage these buildings and these houses and they tear them down and whatnot, that he was coming in and he was making cash offers on their properties. And they painted this in the light of this is such a greedy move, and it painted, the real estate investor as the bad guy in the story. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, man, this is really upsetting for me because this is what I do. This is how I support my family. And I know the vast majority of us do it with the right intentions, right? Now, are there times where devastating things happen to people? And as real estate investors, we are the ones that come in and we buy the real estate from people in terrible circumstances. Absolutely. Our avatar, when it comes to the people's houses that we're buying from, are motivated sellers. What is one of the reasons that would cause someone to be motivated to sell their house for a discount? Well, natural disasters is one of them. A hurricane, a tornado, an earthquake, volcanoes, fires, floods. All of these different things are things that can happen to a property that's a natural disaster that would cause someone to be motivated to sell. Now, in this story, what's funny is that Hollywood tried to make this out to be that the real estate investor was the bad guy. And then the main character, she shifts around. She starts working with the other guy with better intentions and all of this, Hollywood storytelling. What was hilarious to me is even inside of the story where they're trying to make the real estate investor the bad guy, without the real estate investor, the end result, the positive end result that comes, the solution that comes to saving people's lives and actually saving everyone comes from the technology that the real estate investor provides. His money provides the solution. And actually, outside of the main character's knowledge and wherewithal to come up with a solution, his technology is what saves the people's lives. And I think it's funny, and I wanted to bring this to light because the more that you put yourself out there as a real estate investor, the more you're going to hear from the general public that, you're a scavenger, that you're a leech on society, that you go out there and you just try to prey on people that are suffering, that are in pain. And I don't want you to succumb to those feelings and those emotions and that narrative, the narrative that Twisters tries to give about our profession, because we do so much good for our local economies, for the real estate market in general. When a natural disaster comes and it devastates properties, a lot of times people don't have the energy, the resources, the knowledge on how to rebuild those properties, how to rebuild their neighborhoods, right? It takes those real estate investors coming in and utilizing their resources and their expertise to buy those properties, rebuild those neighborhoods, and get it back to being a functional part of the society. And we don't get enough credit for that. And I'm tired of this narrative being spun that we prey on people's pain. That's not what we're doing. We're coming in and we're saying, hey, this happened and we can be a solution for you. Now, one of the things that I didn't appreciate here was they made it seem like it was a bad thing that there was a property that was devastated by a tornado. And one of the characters comes in and says, hey, this is a local family-owned business, and boss man wants us to make a cash offer on the property. Why is that a bad thing? Why is that imagine your property gets devastated by a tornado, and you have an insurance claim that you can file on it, but you also have an investor that says, I can solve your problem today by giving you cash. I can pay you for this devastated property right now. To a lot of people, that is a godsend. That is a game-changing moment where it's like something so devastating just happened, but the real estate investor comes in and says, I can help solve this for you right now by giving you cash. That's not a bad thing. That's not preying on people. That is helping them. That is supporting them. That's rebuilding that community. So to me, I think the movie had a huge misstep. Or quite frankly, it didn't need to be a part of the plot. It doesn't need to be a narrative that we're spinning to the population, the masses, that real estate investors are bad people, that we're this industry that preys on the sellers, because that's just not the case. So I wanted to take the time today to talk about this and say, hey, if you've ever been told this, or you've read a comment about us being, leeches on society or cockroaches or all of these different things that I've seen, I've been called on TikTok. Don't give in to that narrative. We do so much positive for our sellers and for the local economies. Think about the fact that when we go buy a property and we rehab a property and then we resell that property or we rent it out, how many lives are impacted positively by the things that we do? First and foremost, it's the seller, right? The seller gets paid for their property. And by the way, that seller is not forced to sell the property to us. It is just an option for them to sell that property to us. The title company gets paid. Contractors are going to get paid. Realtors are going to get paid when they relist. It could potentially be an opportunity to rent a property, which there's a massive housing shortage throughout this United States. People need properties to rent from. People need properties to purchase. And people want good properties, nice properties, remodel properties, properties that are appropriately rebuilt. That a lot of real estate investors do that on a regular basis and provide that opportunity for all those people to, first and foremost, support themselves, support their families, earn money, have places to live, have properties to purchase. Where otherwise, if there was not a real estate investor that comes along to buy some of these properties, what would happen? Do you think the government is going to come along and do that? We see that in some cities throughout the United States where real estate investors are not active, and we are slowly waiting on the government to help rebuild neighborhoods. It takes forever. But when real estate investors come in and they get involved in local communities, that's where you see property values go up. The neighborhoods become more welcoming and quite frankly, better over the course of time. So don't feed into this narrative. I didn't appreciate it. I quite frankly, at one point in time, thought about walking out of the movie. I thought the movie overall, outside of that, was really good. But I didn't appreciate the narrative that they spun there towards real estate investors, and I found it to be hilarious that at the end of the day, even though they tried to spin this mainly negative connotation towards real estate investors, at the end of the day, the person that was responsible, directly responsible for the solution that saved all of those lives at the end of the day was the real estate investor. They didn't purposely do that, but his technology, his money, his investment into that technology was what supported them coming up with a solution. And I think that is almost a picture perfect way of describing how society looks at real estate investors with a negative connotation, even though we continue to offer solutions and we don't get the credit for it. No one looks at it and says, wow, without the real estate investors, we would be in a world of hurt. But we continue to do that. And pat yourself on the back if you're one of those real estate investors that has continued to uplift and improve your society. Don't feed into this narrative. Don't listen to the ones that try to tear you down, because we do a lot of good for a lot of people. So if you've seen the movie, let me know in the comments what you think. If you haven't seen the movie, let me know if you agree or disagree with my opinion about this. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.